Hi guys, so I am still recovering from my New Year surprise. Yeah, not a great start to the year. So there aren't going to be that many videos out and about in town at the moment, just whilst I get back on my feet. I'm doing much better at the moment. Yeah, everything's fine. So I thought what I'd do today is another reaction video because A, they're easy, and B, they're really interesting. You know, I really like to watch videos either by people in Rwanda or people visiting Rwanda talking about their travel experiences. And this one is a female traveller called Escape with Emily, and she's done a video about solo traveller. So as a solo female traveller, sorry, my voice is really croaky. As a solo female traveller in Kigali, what was her experience? And it's interesting because at the end of the title it says 115-195. So what I assume she's doing just from the thumbnail is probably traveling around the world, like trying to go to 195 countries and reporting on what it's like to be a solo traveller there, which is a really cool idea if that's what she's doing. So let's get into it and see. All right, here we go. I love flying into Kigali. Is that Kenya Airways?
All right, we made it to the Kigali International Airport in Rwanda.
Sounds like she's American.
Okay guys, so I just got to Rwanda and checked into my Airbnb. This Airbnb was about $60 USD per night. I'm staying for 3 nights. I actually got a transit visa because I'm going to be here for less than 72 hours. But this is such a great deal for an Airbnb. They give you some fruit. Maybe have like some water there. They even give you some juice and some milk. I think they even give you coffee too. I don't know where it is. It might be, they have like everything too. You have.
Okay, she's just looking around the Airbnb at the moment. So if you want to see the full Airbnb tour, go and watch the original video. I'll leave the link below and somewhere. So yeah, let's get to the travel bit.
All right, guys, it is the next morning, and first things first, I want to head over to the Genocide Memorial or the Kigali Genocide Museum. I ordered a Move, but it's kind of a hit or miss with Move. It's not the same as Uber because they don't have Uber here, so they have an app called Yego. There's 2 different apps called Yego too. When you look in the App Store, you have to search for Yego Rwanda to pull up the Rwanda Yego app. And then they have the Move app that's by VW. So I'm using the Move app by VW, but it is a hit or miss because the traffic here is just so bad, and sometimes the drivers just don't actually come because they...
Okay, so in almost every single video we cover of foreigners coming to visit Rwanda, the taxi situation comes up every single time. Yeah, there is no Uber, and people say, oh, well, if there was Uber, it would be better. But I don't think so, because it's not about the app, it's about the drivers and, you know, whether or not taxis turn up on time and whether or not, you know, they know where they're going. So I don't think that if it was under Uber, it would be any different to if it was under Move or Yego. I think you get the same kind of service, and that might be why, you know, Uber didn't end up in Rwanda. I don't know, because, you know, it's also the app's reputation on the line if drivers don't turn up on time, if they don't know where they're going, and that's a huge problem in Rwanda. I do apologise, I've got a really croaky throat. So what I would suggest, honestly, if you are young and able, or even middle-aged and able, or even old and able, get on a moto because they're so cheap. They will take you exactly where you want to go, especially if you're going to somewhere like Kigali Memorial in Gisozi. Everybody knows where that is. So you just hop on to a moto. It's not going to cost you more than about 1,500. You tell them Gisozi Genocide Memorial, they will take you there. They will take you door to door, and there are hundreds of motos hanging around on every street corner. You just flag one down. I've done a whole video about how to do that. They're your best bet. But if you absolutely want to take a taxi and not a moto, which is understandable because, as I've covered before, a lot of foreigners have never sat pillion on the back of a moto. This kind of transport is not something that you usually find in most Western countries. Partly because of the weather and partly because of the insurance, the insurance concerns. So, a lot of people have never sat on a moto before and they don't want to make this their first attempt because, especially like she said earlier in the video, she's on a transit visa. So she's in Rwanda for 72 hours. She does not want to end up in a hospital or have an injury before her onward journey. So she's playing it safe. She's getting a taxi. I would honestly say the best thing you can do is just get out your hotel room and start walking, and soon enough you will find a taxi, or one will pull up and ask if you'll want a taxi. That is the better way to go, because those apps, you can be there all day trying to explain to them where you are, trying to explain to them where you want to go. They're not great. And she is not the first person that we've seen saying that, the taxi might never turn up. There was a wonderful American couple who were here with their child, and they went to Kigali Heights and they tried to get home by taxi and it just never turned up. I've never had a good experience trying to order a taxi on an app, but if you hail one in the street, that's usually the fastest way to do it. Or moto if you're feeling adventurous.
My driver's supposed to be 4 minutes away, but I think it's going to take quite a bit of time, so I'm just sitting here.
Actually, I'm just going to jump in again. It's interesting what she said about Kigali traffic being terrible, because we've also covered somebody visiting who said it was amazing. It was completely, the streets were empty. I'm gonna put it this way, Kigali has got two personalities. Is if you hit rush hour, you ain't going to be moving. And again, which is why motos are a better idea, because they can actually just weave through the traffic and get you out of there quickly. If you're in a car, you're going to be sitting there forever. But if you're going around, say, a Sunday morning when everybody's in church, or, Monday daytime when everybody's in work, the streets are empty. So, it's one or the other. It's either completely empty and you don't see any traffic, or it's absolute gridlock and you can't go anywhere. So kind of depends on the day and the time.
There's not actually that much touristy stuff to go do in Kigali. There's an art museum, but I don't think I want to go to the art museum, to be honest.
I'm going to say, I like art, but Kigali Art Museum is a little bit underwhelming. When you're used to kind of museums in other countries, it's not that enticing. She's right. There isn't a huge amount to do in Kigali itself. There's one or two things. I've done a playlist about things to do in Kigali for the day. There are definitely some things. And mostly, I think people come to Kigali en route to the gorillas, or en route to see other areas of the country, like the rainforest in Nyungwe. A lot of Rwanda's most beautiful things are outside of the city. I've got to agree with her. I really think, Kigali as a city could do so much more, like in terms of interesting tourist attractions and things to do. It is what it is.
I think I'm just going to kind of hang out and go to the mall and just kind of do what a local might do here.
Trying to see if I recognise where we are. I know where we are. We're coming onto the Sonotubes roundabout. I called it, right? You saw me, I called it. Yeah, that's the Sonotubes roundabout. Did anybody call it before I did? We've driven around this so many times. Yeah. She's zooming in there. There's Chinese writing on the side of that truck, because Chinese people have been involved in building Rwanda for generations at this point. I think back in, was it the 60s or something, they built the first ever road from Kigali up to Gisenyi, and a lot of Chinese people died building that road. It was in the book Land of a Thousand Hills by Rosamund Carr, which I've talked about before. But yeah, even today, most of the roads here and the infrastructure has been built with a huge amount of help from China. So yeah, there's a lot of Chinese people. There's a huge Chinese community in Rwanda. Going down Rwandix Road. That's a moto. That's a moto. Actually, he looks like he's busy. He's got some stuff to deliver there, but you know, you wanna stop one of those guys and get on the back. Yeah, you see this guy here, he's got a spare helmet over his arm because he's ready to take a passenger. So with a taxi, you might have a light saying for hire, but a spare helmet on the side of his arm means for hire. Or just the fact that there is nobody else on the back of him. Yeah, as you can see, like everybody goes everywhere on a moto. Like people are carrying half their homes on a moto. There are people probably going to work, probably going shopping, probably going to see friends. Everybody takes motos, young, old. Not children. Technically, children are not allowed on motorbikes. I'm not sure what the age is. It's probably like if you can reach like the foot peg or something, I don't know. Yeah, children shouldn't be on motos. And it's also, in Rwanda, it's illegal to have more than 2 people on a moto at the same time. If you go to Uganda and some other places, you'll see like 3 or 4 people on a moto. But here it's only 2 people on a moto and you must wear a helmet. Oh yeah, we're turning off to Gisozi here.
It looks like they have a reception, peace center, and an amphitheater. Let's try to go to the reception first. So Rwanda has kind of a weird history. They were first colonized by Germany.
Weird is certainly one word for it.
But after World War I, in 1916, Germany had everything taken away from them. So Belgium became their new colonial power. Belgium supported the Tutsi group for a long time, but then in the 1960s they switched to the Hutu group. And the Hutu group is the group of people who committed the genocide against the Tutsi population.
So Kwibuka means remember, and every year in April is remembrance time, and they changed the year at the end to however many years it's been since the genocide against the Tutsi. That's interesting because that says Kwibuka 30, but I think it's been more than 30 years, so I'll have to check when she filmed this. Yeah, so we're in 2026 now, so this April will be Kwibuka 32. So if this was filmed in 2025, that should say Kwibuka 31. Yeah, so I have to check. I don't know when she filmed this, but maybe she filmed it a while ago and is releasing it now. Yeah, but Kwibuka just means remember, so remembrance, remembrance. Actually, just going back to that, when I first came here, for many, many years, there used to be a big pool just in front of the memorial, so just in front of the entrance. So where that red brick is, there used to be a big pool with a flame in the middle of it, and the president would come usually to light the flame in the middle of the water. each remembrance. And there used to be a balcony along the upper floor where the staff would stand. I've done a video about that because when I was first here, I volunteered during Memorial one year, and it was quite a memorable experience. So I've talked about that in a different video.
This is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
It's a very well laid out museum, and definitely, I mean, if you're coming to Rwanda for however long, whether you're passing through like she is or you're staying for a while, definitely go and have a look round.
Now they're comparing the genocide of the Tutsis to the genocide in Germany. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am not a fan of this museum. It is very, very biased, and there's not a lot of actual information. It's more agenda driven. So you just get one side of history, and the problem is history is not black and white like this. There's always some gray area, but they don't mention any of that in this museum. It's very, very one-sided.
Interesting. Personally, I think it's quite a good museum. I mean, history will always be told from a certain perspective, but I think it's a good museum. It was built by Aegis Trust, who were a UK organisation who they built the National Holocaust Museum in the UK, and they were asked to come and help to create the Genocide Memorial here in Rwanda, and I think they did a really good job. And she says there isn't that much information, but I think there is. And the room that she was in upstairs, so you go through the downstairs area, which explains the history and the lead up to the genocide against the Tutsi. And then you go upstairs, and there are two rooms, one dedicated to the children who died and one to explain genocides around the world. So it's not just comparing the genocide in Rwanda to the Holocaust, it's also explaining so many other genocides that happen throughout history. And kind of explaining in a more broad sense and a more universal sense that this can happen anywhere, and why it's so important to protect your institutions and your systems and your rule of law from prejudice and, divisionism. So I actually think it's a nicely done memorial. I think it gives you a lot of information in a short space of time. It's a lot to take in. I personally, I think it's a good memorial, but people have different opinions.
Another common pattern that you see in the genocide museums all around the world, not just in this one, is a lot of convoluted information about the number of people who were killed. When you look on Google, and you'll find tons of answers. If you look at Google and try to find how many Tutsis were killed, some people say it was 200,000, other people say it was 500,000, 400,000.
Who on earth is saying it's 200,000?
600,000, a million. It gets very convoluted with the numbers and the facts when you start to go through these museums and through these issues. I got an African iced coffee. This is coffee with ginger in it and some milk. And then I think these might be balls of dough, like fried.
Those are called amandazi. They're just like donut batter, but deep fried. Yeah.
Looks like they are. There's just some breading inside.
Yeah, a lot of our snacks here are quite heavily influenced by the Indian community in Africa. There's a very large Indian community across Africa. And so here in Rwanda, you will see a lot of chapati, a lot of samosa, and a lot of amandazi, and a lot of those were brought over time and integrated into cuisine through the Indian community.
Here I'm at the Kigali Heights Mall. They have a nice little beauty shop here. I'm gonna go inside and see what else they have.
And they have a little bit of everything in this grocery store. They even have flat screen TVs.
I've actually done a video about grocery shopping in Kigali where I go through most of the grocery shops here so that you can see what they've got. I'll leave that link somewhere.
Here's the
Charisma Bookshop.
bookstore at the Kigali Mall. It's a pretty nice bookstore.
Sorry, I know it's annoying, but when I see somewhere that I recognise, I just need to shout it.
I'm here at the Java Cafe and I got some beef and mushroom soup. It looks so good. And I got an iced latte. I think they might have given me some kind of chicken soup instead. There's not actually any mushrooms or beef in this, but it's really good.
I think that is mushroom soup, but she's expecting button mushrooms, and here it's usually oyster mushrooms. Like the local mushrooms are, they're more like big oyster mushrooms. So that looks like mushroom soup to me. Mushroom can have the consistency of chicken, but you know, maybe she's expecting button mushrooms, which we do have here, but they're not as common.
It has like a little bit of a kick to it too. It's pretty spicy, but this is really delicious. And they also had a bookstore at the mall. This is
The bookstore at the mall, Charisma, is technically a Christian bookshop. So it's got an entire wall of Stephen King down one side and an entire wall of Bibles down the other. It's funny, but yeah, I mean, she appears to have bought a Bible at the Bible shop, so yeah.
this is like a dictionary of the Bible that I bought from them, but it's kind of like a Christian bookstore, even though they don't advertise it like that. But most of their books were.
It's very hard not to notice that it's a Christian bookshop. It's like you go and it's got like Lord is my shepherd and love thy neighbour. It's got like plaques and things all over the place. So, I mean, and an entire wall of Bibles. So, you know, it would be pretty difficult not to draw that conclusion. If you head down the road behind KBC, I think it's now called KBC, I don't know. Naming things here is it is what it is, but if you go to Inzora Rooftop Cafe around the corner, there's another big bookshop called Ikirezi, and that one is a little bit less religious.
This is a really nice area over here. If you stay at the Radisson Blue, it's right.
Okay, this is definitely an old video because that green area, that roundabout in the centre, that used to be called the wedding roundabout. And there used to be a very tall pillar with a woman and a child standing on it. And people used to go there to take wedding photographs. So after you get married, it was traditional to go to the wedding roundabout and have your photograph taken. However, that roundabout isn't there anymore. It's been completely flattened, and I think they've installed a dancing water fountain. I tried to go and look at it over Christmas, but when I got there it wasn't working or something, so I haven't seen that yet. I've seen it on Instagram, so I'm fairly sure it exists. I don't know, was that dancing water fountain, was that only there for Christmas, or is that a permanent thing now? Let me know below. But I also discovered, because I was really sad because the wedding roundabout is such an iconic part of Kigali. Like, generations have been there for wedding photographs. I've been there with friends before to take wedding photographs. And it was so sad because the woman and the child just disappeared. And a few weeks ago, I realised I did a memorial tour of Kigali and I ended up at Rwanda, which is right up in the hills in Kigali. And there's a museum there called Museum Ingabo, and they're in the grounds of this big park. And as I drove into the park, I saw this statue covered in plastic. So it hadn't been unveiled, but going back to look at it, that is the woman and the child from the wedding roundabout. I'm 100% certain. So I think they've just moved it to the park in Brebero, which is lovely because that means that the statue is still there, and that statue has seen a lot of marriages. So it's like an integral part of Kigali history. So it still exists up near Museum Ingabo up in Brebero. This is the central roundabout in the centre of town. That's where we went to when we went to look at the Christmas lights. I was wandering around on that roundabout.
All right, guys, we are near the, I think it's called the Tropical Mall. This is basically like the city center. It's one of the busiest parts of Rwanda. Here's the Tropical Plaza.
Okay, hands up here. I've never been to the Tropical Plaza. I mean, she was standing outside T2000, which is probably one of the most famous shopping centres in the whole of Kigali. So, you know, if you live here, you'd say, oh, I'm next to T2000. But she said the Tropical Plaza, which I find interesting because I've never heard anybody talk about the Tropical Plaza. I feel bad now. I feel like I want to go and see what's in the Tropical Plaza. It looks more like an office block, or I don't know, it looks more like an office block than a shopping centre. I've never been there. I guess maybe we're about to go there.
I think I'm going to start in this building over here.
Are we at the back of Chic Building? I think we're at the back of Chic Building.
I think this is, I don't know, I see G6 over here, but there's a lot of little stores over here that I want to go look at. So we'll try this area first. Everyone has to wash their hands before they let you go inside the mall. What would be really awesome is if they made everyone use deodorant as well as washing their hands. What would be really awesome is if they made everyone use deodorant as well as washing their hands.
Use what? Sorry, is that subtitled?
What would be really awesome is if they made everyone use deodorant.
She didn't say that, did she?
Before they let you go inside the mall. What would be really awesome is if they made everyone use deodorant as well as washing their hands.
What would be awesome is if they made everyone use deodorant as well as washing. Fuck off. Sorry. Fuck off. Right, she's that kind of American, is she? Okay. Wow. I have no response to that. I really don't. My goodness me. Hopefully she'll find a little bit more kindness whilst she's reading her Bible, her dictionary of the Bible. This is why a book of religion is never quite as good as just being a decent person. You know, you can do that without having to buy a book.
And see if they have any availability for a manicure. This is a really nice little restaurant they have at the mall.
I thought this was going to be a really nice video where somebody just goes around Kigali and talks about what it's like to be a solo traveller. So far, she's not talking much about what it's like to be, you know, a female traveller going around Kigali. She's just talking about all the things like, you know, dissing the Genocide Memorial, dissing, you know, people's personal hygiene. Yeah, I'm finding this is definitely not the video I thought it was about to be.
Something. I'm gonna get some coffee and then a milkshake for the lady who's doing my eyelashes. I just got my nails done and they did such a nice job and it was only $7 USD. I'm just outside the mall waiting for a taxi, but I got my eyelash extensions done and they were only $26 USD. These last 2 weeks have been so incredibly painful. The lady who did these eyelash extensions did not do a very good job at all. Maybe you're not familiar with eyelash extensions and you're going, why are you showing me this? This is basically this is like 10 different extensions. It's more than 10 actually. It's supposed to be every single individual eyelash that goes onto one of your own eyelashes. This woman just took a big glob of like glue and she just took like a big thing of my eyelashes. You can see like she stuck this like giant thing of glue with all of these lashes onto my like actual eyelashes. I've been trying to take them out slowly, but it's been so painful because this is covering the entire eyelid. It's all like giant chunks of glue. I've had giant pieces of glue in my eyelids for like 2 weeks now. It's been 2 weeks. It's so painful. That was a bad idea. That was a really, really bad idea. But the lady
well, live and learn.
Offered, and she's like, oh, I can do them for da-da-da-da. And I didn't want to be rude. So I thought, oh yeah, I want to, you know, help this woman and give her business.
No, the first thing she said when she came out of there was, oh, it was only this much. It was very, very cheap. So she wasn't like, oh, I didn't want to be rude. She thought, oh, that sounds cheap. That sounds like a bargain. I'll give it a go. When you do that, You roll the dice. That's what you got. You know, I mean, it might have been brilliant, it might not have been, but that's life. We try things and we find out. And yeah, you gave her some money and she could probably, you know, feed her kid for another few days, you know? So, you know, no real harm done there.
Shouldn't have done it.
Okay, enough with the eyelashes. Move on. Move on.
One of the most painful experiences of my life. This one was so painful, you guys.
Am I being too harsh here? Am I being too harsh? I know there are a lot of things that I complain about as well. Am I being too harsh here? Because I definitely believe in everybody's right to, you know, mouth off about the things that annoy them. And this clearly does annoy her. But I don't know. I feel like I just don't really have a lot of, I don't know, empathy on this particular point. I don't know. Is it me? I don't know. Do I need to breathe out? Let me know below.
All right, guys, it is my second and last day here in Kigali, Rwanda. I have had so much fun so far in Kigali, but
doesn't sound like she's had much fun. She's complained about the taxes. She's complained about the Memorial Museum. She's complained about the eyelashes. She doesn't sound like she's had a great time.
But I actually think you only need a couple days here. You might not need a week or 2 weeks, a lot of time to stay here. I thought I was going to want more time here because it's such a nice country. And it is, but there's just not a lot of touristy activities to do here, to be completely.
There are across the whole of the rest of Rwanda, but she's here for what, 2 days in Kigali. And I agree with her. There is not a lot to do in Kigali. For a capital city, there is not a lot to do. There isn't even a proper tourism information shop. The one at RDB, I promise you, does not count. You know, there is no real tourism drive in Kigali. People come here, they go to the gorillas, they go to Gisenyi, they go to Kibuye, they go to Akagera, they get out of Kigali. I definitely 100% think that Kigali could do so much more with tourism. But you know, that's an ongoing thing, isn't it? But yeah, you can't really come to Kigali, look around and say, well, there's nothing to do here, so there isn't much to do in like the country. You know, there's lots to do in the country, and people generally come here specifically to do those things. So I mean, I get what she's saying. I do get what she's saying.
There's that one museum, and that's kind of it.
That's not it. I've done a playlist about other things that you can do in Kigali, but yes, there isn't a lot.
As far as touristy activities, most people that come here, they go see the gorillas, or they go to the wetlands or the national parks. I decided not to do that.
You can go to the wetlands in Kigali. There's a Nyandungu Eco Park that you can go and visit. There's also a crane sanctuary a little bit out of town. So there are lots of other things you could do. But I think one way that Kigali kind of, you know, shoots itself in the foot a little bit is that it really doesn't advertise these things. There's no proper tourist information shop. They're just not really geared towards day trip stuff. It's all about kind of the luxury tourism and people staying in big game lodges and that kind of thing, rather than about like just, you know, the general kind of tourism that you find in Europe or the UK, you know, that kind of stuff. Just there isn't a lot of casual tourism. So yeah, I mean, there is more than the memorial, like I said, playlist, but I do get what she's saying.
Because I just had a 9-day trip in Uganda, and I saw all of that in Uganda. So the same gorillas, same vegetation. I just did all of that for 9 days. So I'm a little bit tired of the parks and the forest areas. So yeah, I've just been exploring the city center. Today I'm going to head over to Inca Steakhouse. It's one of the best steakhouses according to the internet. We'll go there and see. But it's supposed to be one of the best steakhouses here in the capital.
Inca Steakhouse is impressive. It's one of those places where they bring out every possible cut of meat on a wooden board and you can choose what you want to eat. It's a bit swanky, yeah.
So I hope you guys enjoy, and let's go get some steak. But yeah.
Even though the capital in the country is really safe, people still...
Actually, technically it's illegal to have those bottles. It has been for about 2 decades now. Like, they banned the bottles on the walls. You're not supposed to have those, but you know, a lot of houses very old, they still do. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a job to go and take that down, really, but you're not supposed to have those.
Not all the roads are paved here either. You'll still
Most of the roads aren't, because we're in the middle of Africa. You know, I mean, we've got a lot of paved roads. We have got a lot of paved roads, but mud roads are still really, really common. We're working on it. You know, I did a video recently. They came and paved my road, and it was really impressive to watch. But yeah, it's very expensive. It takes a long time. So yeah.
see some dirt ones like this. You'll still see garbage too on the dirt paths, so it's not completely trash free. But the paved roads do seem to be pretty clean. But you still see, you know, little pieces here and there. There's some wrappers. There's some. Oh, but yeah, there's still like trash along the roads, but it's a lot better than most. So not all the parts of the capital are super nice. You'll still run into places that look like they're still developing.
I'll tell you a really big secret, right? Really big secret, scary one, right? You're not going to believe this, but not all parts of London are nice. There's a part called the London Banana, which is basically where all of the nice stuff is. And outside of that is really horrible. It's run down, it's derelict, a lot of empty shops, a lot of empty places, a lot of overflowing trash bins. You know, not all parts of London are nice. I don't know where this lady's from, but I'm pretty damn sure that not all parts of her city are really nice. You know, not all parts of Rome are really nice. When you go to Rome and the Colosseum, it's beautiful, stunning old architecture. And then everywhere else, a lot of graffiti. You know, not every part of any city is flipping beautiful the whole way through. What is this woman's expectations? How she's been to 100 and what? She's been to 160 something countries. Wow.
But the main roads, if you stay on the main roads, if you're driving here, traffic's very heavy, but you can stay in the lanes where everything's pretty well developed.
Again, am I being too harsh? I feel I've definitely taken a certain bias. I recognise this. I've taken a certain bias. After that comment about deodorant in the lift, I've definitely taken a certain view of her. So maybe I'm being overly harsh. You know, guys, who, if you live in Kigali, if you're local or you're foreign, let me know below. Am I being too harsh, or is she a little bit
I think I'm kind of in the slum areas here.
in the slum areas, or you know, or just the local neighbourhood, as people who live there might call it.
Well, you guys, Rwanda is not so clean after all. Once you get into the residential areas and away from the main streets, there's just as much trash.
She is also trying to find every single sweet wrapper that she can and zooming in on it. You know, yes, there is occasionally trash on the ground. Every now and again there is. But if she's just come from Uganda, I'm surprised, or Kenya, I'm surprised that she's saying that it's not that clean, because, you know, we banned plastic bags in, I think it was 2008 that we banned plastic bags here. And, you know, they aren't banned in many other areas. Like if you go to the Maasai, when I visited the Maasai some years back, there were just seas of plastic bags roaming wild across the plains, you know? We don't have that. We've really taken steps. So, yeah, okay, you're going to see it here and there now and again, but what city doesn't have a bit of litter? You know, I still think Kigali is damn clean compared to most places you're ever going to go.
Inca means cow in the native language. Rwanda? I don't know how to say it.
Rwanda. So Rwanda, and you just put Kenya before it. Rwanda. Yes, Inca means cow.
It looks like all their beef comes from Rwanda as well. And they're saying how it helps promote the African agriculture. That's pretty cool. The United States has given a lot of money to Rwanda to try to help their agriculture as well. So they're doing a little bit better. It's really good. It's not as sour as I thought it was going to be. It kind of just tastes like regular milk, but it's a little bit like tangy, I guess you could say. I don't know. It's not bad. It's actually kind of... These are some fried plantains, and this is some ratatouille. And I asked for my steak medium rare. The steak is not that good, to be honest. I ordered a filet mignon, but this is some other kind of cut. This has some apples in it, some kind of apple dessert that they have. I think it's called a poached apple. That Inca Steakhouse, I do not recommend that place to anybody, you guys. Their coffee machine was broken, and then I was like, hey, can you just get me like brewed coffee, like not an espresso shot, but just French press or something. They didn't have coffee, which is fine. And then the steak came out, and it was like, it was just terrible. It wasn't a filet mignon. They still charged me for a filet mignon, but it was some kind of skirt steak. And it was like gristly, like it had like, I don't know. It was not good at all. It was terrible. And that place is rated really well. Like, it's rated really well online, but I'm wondering if the steak here is just so different than how it is in the West that you just can't really, I don't know, maybe that's just...
I'm not a big steak eater. I don't tend to order steak. I've eaten other meals at Inca, and they were really good. Maybe it was an off day. You can order very good steak here, very, very cheaply, because the cattle here are very good. I shop online with Tuma 250 and I get a steak cut for my cats. I know, I'm sorry. Every now and again as a treat I buy it for them, and yeah, it looks like really good steak. Like I say, I'm not a big meat eater. I do eat meat, but I'm not a huge red meat fan. But yeah, I mean, so many people here say you can get a really good steak cheaply. I'm surprised that Inca wasn't that good. Maybe it's going through a difficult time. You know, you can have times when you go online to shop and nothing is available, and other times when it is. So perhaps they were having trouble sourcing the correct type of meat. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
That's the good steakhouse in Rwanda. I don't know. But I don't know. I haven't been, to be completely honest with you guys, I haven't been that impressed with Rwanda. I was told that this place was basically a developed country, that all the streets were paved, they're not.
Just to be honest about it, although we are working to get out of it, we are still on the list of least developed countries in the world. We are, I think it's this year, applying to move up from that category. I don't know where she thinks she is. You know, it's been 30 odd years since there was a massive genocide that devastated the entire country, and now she's complaining that, you know, some of the roads aren't paved, the steak wasn't as good as I thought it was, and my eyelash extensions have fallen off. I mean, I don't know what to say to somebody like that. I really don't. I mean, she's clearly come from a certain place and a certain background with certain expectations that, you know, Rwanda hasn't quite met. And I'm not disputing there is so much further to go here, But it's a work in progress. What did she expect she was going to find? I don't know. It's interesting. She said, I've had a good time in Rwanda, but she's complained about everything so far. Absolutely everything. And I know I have my moments. I know that there are things that drive me up the wall as well. But I still love it here. It's still a really, really lovely country. I don't know what to say.
That it was trash free, no littering, but that's really not the truth.
No, not that it's completely trash free, that it is the cleanest city in Africa. It is extremely clean, unbelievably clean. When you've been to other places like, you know, Kenya keeps cropping to mind, or Uganda, you know, comparatively, very, very clean.
Truth either. All the back alleyways and the dirt roads have trash everywhere, all over them. And there's bags, like people are.
No, they don't. And I don't know where she specifically went walking, but I walk around here a lot, and in my neighbourhood, no. It's very rare to see trash on the ground. I mean, it's not never, you know, occasionally you will see it, but when you see it, like, oh, that's unusual, you know. I don't know where she went walking. It seems like her run of luck has just been terrible while she's here. This country maybe just wasn't the place for her.
The way to not have trash is to just not litter. Like, that's the way to get rid of the trash. It's not to like constantly, you know, have trash pick up every single week or every single day. Like, if you just don't litter, then your whole place is trash free, right? Like Japan or, you know, whatever, Switzerland. So that was kind of a bummer. The food just hasn't been great here, and there's honestly just not a lot to do here. I'm really glad that I only stayed 2 days. I'm sorry, I know that sounds terrible, but
we're also really glad that you only stayed 2 days.
there's just not a lot to do in the capital. Like, I think if I were to come back here, I would go see the gorillas, but I've already seen the gorillas. I've seen them in Uganda, but I would probably plan a day to go do that because there's just not a lot else to do. And now it's raining too. And
well, it was probably the wet season. In the wet season, it rains a lot.
The power just went out as well. So now we don't have any power.
I am going to sympathise with her on this one. I am going to put aside my personal feelings for a minute, put them in a box under the table. I do sympathise with her on this one because power outs last year, power outs recently have been insane. Like, I mean, just all the time. We've had national power cuts, we've had citywide power cuts. There was a point where I think my power went off 3 times in a day at one point, and it was getting insane. And still, you know, in our little group chat of friends, we're always reminding each other to charge our appliances because, you know, any minute the electricity could boop go. It's definitely been more noticeable this year than ever before. So, well, not ever before. I don't mean ever before. Like, when I first arrived here, it was bad. Water and electricity was bad. But then over the years, it's been getting better and better and better. But now it's getting worse again. But Trevor Noah, I was watching a Trevor Noah comedy special the other day, and he was talking about South Africa and load shedding, and apparently it's getting insane in South Africa. So we're not at that level yet, but people have been a bit annoyed, a little bit angsty about the fact that the power keeps going off. But I think work in progress.
I'm here at the Kigali International Airport waiting on my 3:40 a.m. flight
What do you think she's going to find to complain about here?
to Tanzania with the layover to Nairobi.
Oh, she didn't. Okay, so the airport was fine. Watch more. I think for me, that was enough. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she's a perfectly pleasant person, and yeah, I guess, you know, out of all of the countries she's been to, this one just didn't blow her bollocks off. But you know, that happens. That's fine. That's part of traveling. Yeah, I don't think I've got a lot more to say, really. I thought it was going to be about, you know, a single female traveller in Rwanda and the do's and don'ts about, you know, what it's like being a single female traveller. And I thought it was going to be a really positive video because as a single female traveller, I've travelled all over the country here, and I've never had any major incidents or harassments. So for me, I think it's a fantastic country to come if you are a solo traveller, and I thought that's what it was going to be about, but it was a little bit of other stuff instead. And you know, some of the points very valid. Point about the taxi service, absolutely. Yeah, the electricity is not great right now, and definitely, what was the third one that she mentioned? Not having an awful lot to do in Kigali. Totally down with those points. Totally, yes, absolutely. But for the rest of it, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a steak eater and I don't have false eyelashes, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't got much to contribute on that, but I definitely think, let me just check, when was that actually filmed? Because 1 year ago, So yeah, 1 year ago, yeah, I guess Kwibuka 30 would be correct, yeah. Because we're in Kwibuka 31 and April would be 32. So yeah, it was about a year ago. So that's why the roundabout is still there. That's why the memorial and everything. Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I hope she enjoyed the other countries a bit more, and see you in the next one.